I'm going to start with this, and just by saying who I am. My name is Dov Barron, in case you don't know. I'm the founder of FullMontyLeadership.com. I am an international business speaker, voted and stated by Inc. magazine as one of the top 100 leadership speakers to hire. Proud of that one. Contributor to Entrepreneur magazine, Medium, and a bunch of other great outlets. So if you want to get a hold of my stuff, that's a great place. And I'm also a mentor to leaders just like you, people who are highly successful in different realms, high-level entrepreneurs, CEOs, and families of high net worth, helping them to develop the next generation of leaders. So it's great work. I love to do what I do. I get to mentor and work with people individually as well, and it's wonderful stuff. And it's all based around leadership, but leadership in a much bigger sense than what we tend to think about leadership. Leadership in the sense of what it means to be a leader, in understanding how to lead ourselves and lead others. So I'm going to jump in here as you joined in. Appreciate you joining in. As I said, you feel free to do the hearts or do the smiley faces or the thumbs up and hit the share button throughout while I'm broadcasting. It's okay. It doesn't put me off. It actually cheers me on. I'm always grateful to get those from you. Because I want to talk to you today about, think about this. I want you to consider that you own a hotel, okay? You own this hotel, a little boutique hotel. I use the analogy of hotels because right now I'm looking in hotels because I'm going to be in New York at the beginning of December again. So when you think about you own this nice hotel, boutique hotel, you feel very proud of it, you're happy about it. You know, you've done all the corporate training, you've got beautiful beds, you've got beautiful equipment, the place is laid out beautifully, it's beautifully decorated, you feel like you've trained your staff really well, and your two front desk people who work in opposite shifts, but the two front desk people that you have, one is Donald Trump, and the other one is Hillary Clinton. Now, here's what I want you to consider. I want you to consider that they're working there and they seem to be doing a pretty good job as far as you're concerned. You don't interact with them because your manager interacts with them. You don't actually have to interact with them in any sort of intimate level. You don't really know. But, you know, as far as you're concerned, they seem to be doing okay. And you've heard some things about them, but you're not entirely sure if they're absolutely true. So you're not really sure. So what you decide to do is, because you've heard a couple of poor things about both of these people, is you've decided that what you're going to do is you're going to send in what you might call a secret shopper. You're going to send somebody in to the hotel, pretending to be a client, to be an occupant, somebody who's going to stay at the hotel, and you're sending that person in, and that they are going to interact with this front desk person who happens to be Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton. In fact, you're going to send the person to interact with them both. Here's the question I want to ask you. When your secret shopper goes into that hotel and interacts with one of those people, and they come away, do they come away and say, the person at the front desk was X, Y, or Z? So they interacted with Donald Trump, who, let's say, is misogynistic, speaks down to women, seems to be a bit racist. Do they come away and say the front desk person was misogynistic, arrogant, racist? Is that what they say? If they come away having interacted with Hillary as your front desk person, do they come away and say, this front desk person was kind of cold and felt like they were not interested in who I was or what really mattered to me, I felt like they were speaking down to me, and I didn't really feel like they could connect with me, and there was something somewhat suspicious about that person? Is that what those people report? Now, you would probably say yes to that, right? But I want you to think about it at a deeper level. Pretend it's not a secret shopper. Pretend it's somebody from the UK, somebody from Australia, somebody from the Netherlands, somebody from some other country who comes in and walks into your hotel and interacts with one of those front desk people. Do they come away and say that the front desk person was this, that, or the other thing? Or do they say that your hotel is that? What I'm trying to have you understand is, this is one of the things we do with the companies we work with, is we have them understand how important culture is, because your front person is the representation of you. So just to be clear, in this upcoming election, you're not just voting for Hillary, and I'm going to get into that in a minute, and you're not just voting for Trump. What you're actually voting for is how the US will be seen overseas, how people will see Americans. I don't know if you've considered that, but that is what you'll be seen as. You will be seen as whoever you vote for, because the president is the representation of the people. And so the American people will be seen as whatever that leader is seen as. That will be the picture. That is part of what you're voting for. And you need to understand that that's culture. That's the perception of culture. Your front person is the representation of your brand, and the brand in this case is the US. And the representation of that brand in this case is either Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, or potentially a third-party person. Jill Stein, could be for the Green Party. It could be Gary Johnson for the Libertarians. I don't know. But what I'm just trying to have you understand and have you grasp is that the person who becomes president is the person who is the front-end brand of this brand called America. And so you will be, as an American, you will be seen as part of that brand. And I hope you can really grasp the implication of that, because this is quite different than the way people think about it. It's quite different than the way people think about it. So here's the other piece that I want you to understand. So many people right now, of course, and I understand why, very fixated, very focused on do we vote for Hillary? Do we vote for Trump? I don't, and lots of people saying I don't trust either of them. And I understand that. I can actually grasp that from both places. But I want you to consider something. Here's what I want you to consider. Think about President Obama. Now, whether you voted for him or not, whether you like him or not, is not my point here. My point is, think about him and consider how many things he tried to get through Congress that he couldn't get through. How many times he was roadblocked. How many times he was stopped from going to where he wanted to go or doing what it was that he wanted to do. How did that happen? Well, you know how it happened. Through Congress. You see, one of the great mistakes that people think is that they believe that the president has all the power. The average person doesn't understand, doesn't realize that the president does not have all the power. Not in the system that we have today. Not in a democratic system. There is Congress and there is the Senate. And both of those can get really seriously in the way of a president fulfilling something that he wants to do or that she wants to do. So you need to understand that when you go out and vote on Tuesday, in the general election, you are also going to be voting for Congress and for the Senate. And you need to understand that though that is a massive impact on the politics of the future. This is what you need to understand, because if there is a President Clinton, Hillary Clinton, or if there is a President Donald Trump, as much as we might say, well, this is a fascist system, or this is a corrupt system, or whatever we're saying, part of the checks and balances of that system is Congress and the Senate. Now, there's issues with that too, because there's lifetime possibility for those people to become political animals rather than being something else altogether, rather than actually serving. And from the minute they get in, they're trying to get money to stay in. So the system itself is quite distorted and not exactly finessed, let's just say that, okay? So so understanding this, though, this is what I want you to grasp, is that you're not just voting for a president. And so you need to get off your horse about what you think Trump is, or what you think Hillary is, or what you've been told and brainwashed either of those two people are, rather than considering the deeper understanding that if you believe in this political system, if you believe in what we call a democratic system that we have in the US, then you need to understand that there's a bigger picture here than a cult of personality based on Trump or on Hillary and your like or dislike of those two people. Now, I want to take this a bit deeper with you, and I'm going to go into some deeper stuff here that some of you probably have no idea is part of my world or has ever been part of my world. But many of you do understand that I have a multidisciplinary background. My background in philosophy, in psychology, with quantum physics and politics, and a whole bunch of stuff, persuasion. Some of you saw the article that I wrote that got picked up all over the US and made news in lots of different places that I wrote on Trump and the strategies that he's very successfully using to create a cult following and making him into what I said was the real Teflon Don, meaning that nothing sticks that is bad. And in fact, Hillary was up in double digits over Donald Trump just a very short period ago as a result of quote-unquote Pussygate and the stuff that he said about women, which was horrendous. And of course, now that's got blown back the other way, and now nobody's even mentioning it. It doesn't even matter anymore because now we're back under Hillary and the emails. Again, I'm not defending either of these two people. I'm not actually even saying either of them were right. What I'm trying to have you grasp is there's a bigger picture. One of the things I said that most people don't know about me is that back in '89, I actually was on a speaking tour speaking about the political system and leadership in the form that it was in, and speaking about George Bush Sr. and what his plans were for something called New World Order, which really was the globalization and the tearing down of borders. And much of that seemed really wonderful and really great because, you know, I was in favor of us, let's get rid of the racism, let's get rid of all the separation, let's bring more inclusive mentality, let's have each other really look at each other as humans rather than as our people and your people, and let's just sort of separate all that. But there was an agenda that was going on underneath that, and I talked a lot about that agenda, and that agenda was a highly manipulative and political agenda that was going to have some very serious effects and very serious backlash. Now, did globalization go ahead? Of course it did. You know it did. Because now, through the internet, which has been wonderful, we've got a globalized economy in many ways, and we are in touch with each other in many different ways. That globalization has brought some amazing things to all of us, but it has also had an impact on first world economies. And of course, many people just didn't see that. I think the powers that be really did. But many of the people who were part of that didn't see where it was going. Because as you globalize and you pull the borders down, quite naturally, the economies of first world countries must come down as third world countries come up. It's just nature. It's the nature of economics, because we cannot provide the workforce at the same level as a third world country. It's just not possible. So this is the deeper political understanding of this situation that people have not considered. Now, the backlash of that is that, of course, now we've got a greater level of nationalism. You've got people who are really keen on nationalism, and you've seen it with the Brexit situation. And so the UK decided to become more nationalist. They pulled away from a collective, being the EU, and trying to protect themselves. That's part of the national mentality, is it's nationalist rather than globalist. And we need to understand that we need to be global in our thinking and still take care of our own. And this is part of what people are not grasping here, and it's where we get the racism and the rise of the right wing. Whenever you've got a right wing, a nationalist mentality, the right wing is going to raise. You're going to see more racism. You're going to see more separation, and that's a lot of what is going on. But what I want to point out to you is there are no new issues here, none. I talked about in the article that I wrote on Trump and decoding Trump and talking about how Trump is using persuasion technology. I talked about how he's done a masterful job of becoming the voice of the disenfranchised. He's become the voice of people who he actually doesn't relate to even slightly, but he's done such an amazing job of it. And those people are the people who felt like we're too politically correct. And so somehow this guy who has got a little bit of metal poisoning from the silver spoon in his mouth, or maybe from all the gold and brass that surrounds him, has made himself a man of the people. And I've got to tell you, he's done a brilliant job of it. There's no doubt about it. He's become the voice of the disenfranchised. Now, let me be clear here. When I talk about the disenfranchised, I'm not just talking about the people who are poor, not just talking about the people who are working class when he talks about bringing the economy back or bringing jobs back. That's actually not what I'm talking about. He's done it with them for sure, but he's also done it with a lot of people who have seen the dysfunction of Washington. Many of the people I know who are highly intelligent people who I have a ton of respect for, are voting for Trump and are actually very actively voting for Trump and encouraging others to do the same. These are not stupid people, so stop calling Trump voters stupid. They're not stupid. These are the disenfranchised. Now, the people I'm talking about do very well financially, so it's not about that either. What it is that they've seen the corruption that goes on in Washington and they want it to end. And certainly Trump is not politics as usual. He's speaking about the things that people have not spoken about. I said there's no new issues here. Hillary Clinton is clearly politics as usual. There's no doubt about that. Nobody doubts that. That's what's got people in a kerfuffle. That's what's got George H. Bush voting for Hillary Clinton in this election, because it's politics as usual. These are not new issues. So the disenfranchised, whether they are the poor and unemployed, or whether they are the moderately wealthy or doing well, who are intellectual and see the corruption of the system and want it to end, they're going to back Trump. So please understand that this is not a cult of personality. This is not about you picking a person. This is not about picking Hillary over Trump. Because one of the questions that I'm asking people all the time right now is, are you voting for or are you voting against? A lot of people are voting against Hillary, therefore picking Trump. A lot of people are voting for Hillary because they're against Trump. You've got to grasp, folks, you've got to decide to vote for, not against. This is really important for you to grasp, really important. Because this is about a bigger picture, and that's why I said to you, you've got to take a look at the fact that this is also Congress, and that the president in this system doesn't have that much power without Congress. So we've got to consider that there's Congress and the Senate to be considered, and that maybe you want to think about some more independent people going into those places, or certainly thinking about people who will genuinely take care of what it is that your concerns. This is vitally important. Now, very often I'm asked about this, and I said, I've been interested in politics, and I'll tell you how I got interested in politics. When I was 10 years old, I saw the assassination of Martin Luther King, and that's actually when my passion for politics started. And interestingly enough, even though I was born in the UK, my passion was always for American politics. I was fascinated by American politics with JFK and such, because I believed that America was a country where, quite literally, the average person could become a president or could have power, and I was fascinated by that. But I've always had this wonderful, I mean, of course you know, many of you know, that I do a ton of work in the US. I have a ton of friends in the US, but I don't live in the US. I have this objectivity that you don't have when you live inside something. I don't live in the American bubble, so therefore I'm not party to or fed as much of the media rhetoric on either side. I get to be a little bit more objective on both positions. And that's why I'm saying to you, if you understand politics and you understand the system, it's vital for you to consider that you're not just voting for Trump and you're not just voting for Hillary, you're also considering who is going to be the people who will do the checks and balances on those guys. And that is really important for you to consider. That's really important for you to consider, okay? So consider the Congress as well. So one of the things I wanted to ask you is not only what do you believe, but why do you believe what you believe? See, a lot of people believe all kinds of stuff about the candidates or about the party, but you've got to ask yourself, why do I believe what I believe? Are you believing what you believe about politics or about those candidates because of what you're fed through the media? Because a lot of what you're getting is just not true. And I really suggest, whether we're talking about Clinton or whether we're talking about Trump, that you really do your research and don't go to the places that agree with your point of view. Go somewhere else. Go read independent. Go look independent. Take a look at who is really speaking here. Is the people speaking, the people who are speaking to you because they agree with what you're saying? You know, smart people go and find people who disagree with them and find out why. They don't just write them off. They dig in and go, well, why do you believe that? Tell me more about that. I want to understand that. This is emotional intelligence, folks. This is communication skills. Is you've got to be willing to find out why the other people believe what they believe, rather than making them stupid or making them wrong. This is a vital piece for you to understand. Here's the key. There is no savior. Hillary Clinton is not going to save the U.S. Donald Trump is not going to save the U.S. In fact, I believe that the U.S. is about to change. I said in 1989, I was on a speaking tour speaking about the shift in politics. And I said in 89, we are at the brink of the fall of the American empire. I believe that with every piece of my being. We are at the brink of the fall of the American empire. Empires last about 200 years. America's overdue. Now, it doesn't mean that it's going to fall into devastation, but the form that it's in is going to change. And that is actually what I like about Trump, is that he's bringing about this revolution, that he's bringing about this saying, no, we're not just going to look at things as they are. We're not just going to accept things as they are. We're going to look at things in a different way. I like that. I'm not saying I go along with him. I'm not saying I agree with his way of being. But I am saying that, yeah, we do need to look at the system, and the system does need to change. And he has sure as hell shaken up the Republican Party, and that's a good thing. But in the process, he's also shaking up the Democratic Party and the political system. So really grasping that that system has got to change, and it is changing, and this is a good thing. And yeah, we may see a few fires in the process, but we're going to burn away a lot of the crap in the process. So it's really important for you to know. So again, you're not just voting for Trump, you're not just voting for Hillary, you're voting for a system, and you're voting for the people who will be in power in the Congress who can support you and where you come from. Because a lot of these voices of these personalities have got so little to do with you, the individual. This is vital for you to understand. So when you're voting, consider that. Because I want to go back to the analogy I gave you at the beginning, which is consider that they are the front of the brand, but they don't represent the people. And I want to give you that because I want you to grasp this, which is so important for you to grasp. On Tuesday, you're going to go out and vote. Most of you are going to go out and vote. But who will you vote for on Wednesday? Who will you vote for next week, next month, next year? Who will you vote for then? Now, you say, well, there is no voting then. No, it's not what I'm talking about. See, here's how we vote. We vote with our mouth, we vote with our feet, with our actions, and we vote with our dollars and how we spend our money. How will you vote? So here's the question I have for you. Will you be proud of yourself, not only for the way you voted on ballot day, but will you be proud of yourself about the way you treated the others? Because if you're making the others stupid because they voted in a way you didn't, then you're no longer voting for America. You're voting for Trump, you're voting for Hillary, you're voting for, I don't know, Gary Johnson, Jill Stein, you're voting for whoever you're voting for. But my question to you is that who you're voting for? Because I would really hope that you will vote for America. Because this is a country that, I've loved since I was a kid, because it was about all the different people from all over the world who could come in and could make a life and could come together and unite. And it was so less class-oriented than where I'd grown up, and I admired that so deeply. So what I'm asking you to do, what I'm really asking you to consider is that what if Trump doesn't represent the brand? What if Hillary doesn't represent the brand? What I mean by that is, please don't look at the people who vote for Trump as Trump. Don't look at the people who vote for Hillary as Hillary. If you believe Hillary is corrupt, then don't allow yourself to see people who vote for Hillary as corrupt. It doesn't mean that. If you see Trump as misogynistic and racist, don't assume that the people who are voting for him are misogynistic and racist. It's easy to do that, just as it's easy to go in and get poor treatment at the front of the hotel and say, this hotel's terrible. The people who own it are terrible. That's not true. These are the front people. They don't necessarily represent the party. And this is what you've really got to understand. I know that they're supposed to represent the party. I know that they were put in place to represent the party, but they actually may not represent the party. And it's going to be up to you to decide how to treat these people afterwards. Because the day after election, I'm going to tell you what they're going to be. Yeah, they're still going to be talking about the party. But as time goes along, you know who they're going to be? They're going to be Americans. Just like you. They're going to be Americans. That's who they're going to be. So really take a look at that. Is this a vote of love? Is this a vote of hate? Who you be voting for after? You're going to be voting for love or for hate? That's my question to you. That's what I really want you to consider. You're voting for love, or you're going to be voting for hate? Are you going to be voting for people, or are you going to be voting for politics? Will you look back 3 months, 6 months, a year from now and be proud of your vote? With the rise of nationalism, with the rise of that nationalism and what it means, and the right wing, and again, I'm not saying that that's what's happening. I want you to consider this. How do these things happen? And it's very simple. How these horrible systems come in place is because we dehumanize the other. We dehumanize the other. Some of you are old enough to remember Cambodia and Pol Pot murdered millions of their own people. Idi Amin murdered millions of their own people. Lenin murdered millions of their own people. How are normal, average, everyday people able to do this? And the answer is very simple. It's basic psychology, and that is this. You dehumanize the other. You make the other not as human as you. Well, they're less than us. They're not less than you. They are people who are desperate for whatever their own reasons are. We want to be loved. We are all looking for meaning in our lives. And if somebody shows up who says that they give our lives meaning, then we keep showing up for that. These people are not less than you. And I know you can look at them and you can judge them and you say, well, they're ignorant. You know what? Both sides can say that about the other. This is not what it means to be a decent human being. What I'm asking you to do is whatever it is you choose to do, whoever you choose to vote for, I have no interest in influencing that. What I have an interest in is influencing you to behave with love, to respect. A democracy is about respecting other people's opinions. Intelligence, emotional intelligence, is willing to listen to the opinions of others who don't agree with you so you get smarter. That's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to vote for love. I'm asking you to treat other people with humanity. And that when you're tempted to dehumanize and make the others wrong or stupid, please remember, we've all been stupid. We've all made bad choices. And yes, there are potential massive impact of this. But I will tell you, I do believe this is the beginning of the fall of the American empire. And that doesn't mean a bad thing. It means it's transforming into something that can be even greater. But that's not going to happen by us killing each other in the street. Because I was asked today about this. My concern is not what happens on Tuesday. My concern is what happens on Wednesday, and the following Wednesday, and a month after, and a year after. That's my concern. That's my real concern. So this is Dov Barron, fullmontyleadership.com. And I'm asking you to stay curious, my friend. Stay curious about what the other people believe, rather than just making them wrong. Stay curious about their humanity. Don't make yourself better than others. Instead, become better than you by listening deeper. Listen with your heart and with your soul, with everything that you've got, because that's what real leadership is. It's the willingness to listen, the willingness to learn, the willingness to grow. It's up to you. I wish you the very best as you approach this election. I don't know that there's ever been a more important one. Not because of the candidates, but because in this election, you won't just decide a president. You'll decide who you are and who you are going to be moving forward under a political banner. Dove Baron, Full Monty Leadership. I'm not going to say I'm out because I want to hear from you. I haven't given you a chance to, I've gone on. I really want to hear from you. I want to hear what you have to say. Give me the thumbs up, give me the hearts, give me the shares. Hit the share button, please. If you believe that what this was shared today was powerful and important to you, hit the share button again. I really respect that, if you would appreciate that, because I think this is an important message, and I've been thinking a lot about it for quite some time and wanting to share it with you, and I wanted to wait right to before the election so it doesn't get forgotten. If you think this is an important message, please share it with others. So give me the thumbs up, give me the hearts, give me your comments, whatever it is you've got for me. I want to hear from you. Maybe you think I'm a complete nutter and I've completely lost it, and that's okay. And if you've got something else that you want to say, jump in. Maybe I've missed something that you think is important, and that's okay. You can say that too. Meanwhile, I'll sort of scroll back and see what you've had to say so far. But please feel free to jump in and tell me what you think. Oops. And tell me what you think and what you've got to say. Let's have a look. Important subject from Lindsay. Thank you, Lindsay. You have to live here to understand our present and our past. That's what Michelle says. I disagree entirely, Michelle. I think that that's part of the challenge is there's a bias of living inside an environment. I didn't understand the UK anywhere near as well until I left it. I understood certain things about it that were definitely native from living and growing up there, but I also got to understand the bias. One of the reasons that companies bring me in as a consultant is for exactly that reason, because I don't have the bias of being inside of the company. I have some objective view. And so, yes, it's important to understand, and I do. I'm very, very, very committed to understanding American politics, and I'm fascinated by it and have been for, well, more than 40 years. However, I also want to keep the objectivity. I think it's an important thing to have. So I appreciate your point of view. I disagree, respectfully, but I also totally understand where you're coming from. So thank you for sharing that. Let's have a look here. Who else? Jim says, let's have a look what Jim says. Oops. Oh, let me do that. All right. Jim says, FBI just announced no problem with Hillary private emails. What cover-up? It stinks. You know what? I have read some of the WikiLeaks stuff, and I don't agree with that. I really do think that there's certainly some stuff that's gone on with the Clinton stuff. Whether she is up for treason, that certainly there's no proof of at this point. But there's certainly some tricky goings on, and that's again is part of why things have to change, because the system is certainly less than perfect, and nobody's going to get a perfect system, but it definitely needs to, a lot of things need to change about the way that it is. So, yeah, Jim, I get where you're coming from, mate, but I think there is some things to look at in there. Let's have a look here. Nancy Summers says, there are serious problems, especially seen living in a border state. I'm in Southern California and would like more restrictions. More restrictions around what? Sorry, Nancy, don't understand that. Let's find out. Maybe you're still there and you can tell me. So true about Congress. Yeah, like I said, please understand, you're not just voting for a president, you're voting for Congress. Lynn said, he's already infected our culture, influenced good people into acting and buying extremist ways. There is definitely that. That is definitely one of the really sad parts about this. As I said, talking to the disenfranchised, and as soon as you do that, it means that it's easy to dehumanize on both sides. And that, we're seeing people who have gone out and attacked Trump supporters. Democrats have gone out and start fights with Trump supporters. Yeah, I'm not saying Trump supporters haven't done violent things. Of course they have. But, you know, if we follow the path of Gandhi, you know, certainly violence is not going to solve any problems with going back out with more violence. So we really got to wake up here, okay? We really got to step into this. Gerard says, respect, thank you that. And William says, great message. Thank you. All right, guys, nobody else is jumping in with anything you got to say, and if you're not, that's fabulous. I genuinely hope that this has been valuable to you, and it's maybe allowed you to think about some things a little bit differently. Please, I ask you to share this message with everyone that you know. If it's been valuable for you, give me the thumbs up, give me the hearts, those kinds of things. And please, hit share. If you want it to get out there and you want people to think about this at a much bigger level and consider that this is more than a personality, and not just voting for Trump or Clinton, you're actually voting for Congress as well, and they are the checks and balances. So you might want to consider that when you are going out to vote. It's really important, okay? And as I said, I want to ask you to stay curious about how you will feel about the way you treated the other next Wednesday, a week from Wednesday, after voting, the next day after voting, the next week after voting, the next year after voting. Consider how you'll feel about how you were. I want to encourage you to be your very best. And you're going to do that by not dehumanizing others, not making others less than you, but respecting that in a democracy of free speech, everybody's allowed a point of view, even if you think it's a dumb one. Till next time, Dov Baron, Full Monty Leadership. Stay curious, my friends. Stay curious about how you can humanize others and be a greater leader. And remember, the person at the front doesn't always represent the brand. Till next time, Dov Baron, and I'm out.